Good morning. Just waiting to see if any other students will join. So we'll begin in about 5 minutes.
Morning, miss.
Good morning. All right. Just to recap, what are some of the things that you remember about the introduction and the different types of hook in the introduction? What are some of the different types of hooks that might be used in your introduction?
Repeat, miss.
What are the different types of hooks that you can use in your introductory paragraph when you're writing an essay?
Miss sense of appeal.
Sorry, can you repeat that, please?
Sense of appeal.
No, emotional appeal is a persuasive technique.
With rhetorical question,
Right, rhetorical questions. What other types of hooks do you have in the introduction?
empathy,
No, that's a persuasive technique. So remember, in your introduction, you have the hooks, which are the attention grabbers. So remember that the forms that they can come in is the rhetorical question, like what Michaela just said. You have, you can use a statistic, and statistic is just like using numbers or factual information, like a very startling fact that can get your audience's attention. You can use quotations, like a quote that is related to the specific topic that you're answering. And the quote can be a motivational quote or something that is well known. You can use um, anecdotes, and what anecdotes are just like brief short stories. Remember, we had went over some examples. So these are some examples of hooks in the different forms. So you have the rhetorical question, you have the statistic, the anecdote, and the quotation. So all of these right here are the examples that we had come up with.
So
And then,
rhetorical question, anecdotes, statistic, and a quote.
right, and you understand how to use a statistic as a hook.
Repeat, miss.
Do you understand how you use a statistic as a hook?
Well, it's a factual information that you use, but it's not too wordy to lose interest halfway through reading. So you keep it short and brief, but keep it interesting and factual.
Okay, good. And in my example here, I combine both statistical.
Non-rhetorical.
Right. So don't get the two confused. Remember that rhetorical is just that it ends with a question, while statistical data uses numbers.
Yes, miss.
Separately from the hook, in the introduction, you have other information separately from the attention grabber. What are these other information that you have to include in your introduction?
Other information. Miss, a brief background. Background.
Right, so you have to have background information. And what does the background information usually contain?
It's like a slight factual information, miss, that is normally found or normally the most common situation in this topic.
All right. So, right, you have in your background information, you don't get too straightforward. And I think that's what you were saying. You provide like a general information on whatever topic that you're discussing. So you
Yes, miss.
don't get in as much details as yet. And then separately from your background information, what sentence is usually in the last or the final sentence of your introduction?
The thesis statement.
Right. And what is the thesis statement?
A summary of what you just said.
So the thesis statement is kind of like a summary, yes, but it's not with general information. It has to give a direct answer to the question that you're answering. And what I did with my thesis statement was to ensure that I had 3 points. So anytime that you're writing your thesis statement, ensure that it has three convincing points for your persuasive essay that you will use to develop your three body paragraphs. Because once you have 3 points in the thesis itself, you are good to write the rest of your essay because you have the points that you will develop on. So in the last classes, we spent time with the first body paragraph and or second body paragraph. What are some of the information that you have to include in your body paragraphs?
Repeat that, miss.
When you're writing your body paragraph, how do you write it? What do you use to base your, in specifically with persuasive writing, how do you um, write your body paragraphs? All right, I'm gonna help you guys. So with the body paragraphs, remember that you're basing it off of your thesis statement. Once you have three strong points incorporated in your thesis statement, you
Use one of them.
right. So I separated my thesis statements, the points. So the first one in yellow, second in green, and the final
And
point in blue. So for my first body point, I started with the one in yellow. And I made some, I edited the first and second body paragraph. I made some small additions to it. So what you can use to remember how to write your body paragraphs is peel. You can use this. And what this means for the peel, you have your point, an example, you have explanation, and you link it. So when I say point, from the point from the peel would be your first point, which you take from the thesis statement. So all you would need to do is to just reword this point and make it your topic sentence. So the topic sentence of my body paragraph was that bullies should be placed into special institutions because if they are removed from ordinary schools, students' general performance can improve. And I'm
mm,
going to change this can right here to will because remember it is a persuasive
they don't want
essay.
to sound unsure.
Right, right. So you have to sound like you're sure and you're trying to get the audience to believe you.
Dismiss.
So I used, do you remember what this word here is called? What kind of word?
First is secondly, therefore, however,
So they are transition words. They help you to transition and provide information for your paragraphs.
dismiss.
So my first example was that victims of bullying usually undergo emotional distress and are usually fearful of the bully. If the bully is removed from the school, students will have more time to concentrate on classwork rather than concentrating on what the bully might do. And to support my statement here, I used a persuasive technique, which was in the form of a rhetorical question and emotional appeal. Can you imagine how liberating it would be to be in a classroom without anticipating agony?
Agony, fear, and emotional distress in any form.
Right. And then to tie or link it back to my first part of the
Moments.
topic sentence, which is that they should be placed into special institutions. I said if bullies are placed into special institution, the victims would spend less time worrying about the bully and will be better able to focus and improve their performance in class. So you can always remember the this abbreviation here. So remember your point, provide an example, an explanation, and link it back to the point that you made. Our second body paragraph, I tweaked it a little bit right here. I said, if secondly, so that's my transitional word again, because that's my second point. You don't exactly have to use firstly and secondly though, but you can
Yes.
use some of these. You can take the time to note them down. So if you're using a concluding transition word, you can use finally, in conclusion, in sum, to conclude, or thus. And you have other words that you can use as well. And these are just some other transitional words that you can use in the body paragraph. So firstly, secondly, moreover, furthermore, likewise, etc. All of these you can use in any paragraph. And you should always try to use one transitional word for each paragraph.
Yeah.
Right. Alright. So for the second body paragraph, our second point was that if bullies are placed into special institutions, they can be rehabilitated. And what rehabilitation means is just that they will change or transform their behavior. It will be modified in some way. So my explanation was that special institutions will have guidance counselors that are adequately trained and equipped with the necessary skills to prevent bullying. They will be able to provide counseling and encourage positive behaviors in bullying. Special institutions will also have strict rules that are geared towards reforming bullies, and enforcing these rules will force bullies to change their behavior. Additionally, if bullies are rewarded for the good behaviors they display, they will try to exhibit more positive behaviors. Then, in order to get the persuasive device working, because we were using appeal to authority. So I said, according to the Jamaica Association of Guidance Counselors, and I quoted, counselors are usually the first to recognize warning signs of bullying. Therefore, special institutions will have counselors with more advanced training than those of a regular school, and as such will be better able to transform bullies to exhibit positive behaviors. So remember that we're trying to convince here again. So in order to say that bullies should go to special institution, you'd have to try to compare why should they go to a special institution to get guidance counseling when regular schools also have guidance counselors. So what I said was that at the special institution, guidance counselors will have more advanced training, and as such they would be better able to identify the signs of bullying and would be able to modify or transform beliefs to exhibit positive behavior. So you have to remember to link it back to to your point, right?
Right.
All right. So our last um, body paragraph will be based on this highlighted in blue. So it says that it can reduce, if bullies are placed in special institutions, it can reduce the fear that is generally associated with victims of bullying in attending school. So how could I reword that to make my third body paragraph? All right, so let's start with a transitional word. What transitional word should I use here?
Greatness.
Which transitional word should I use here?
Uh,
Miss Furthermore.
yeah.
You could use furthermore, but because we're going on into a new paragraph and it's a third point, I wouldn't use furthermore on because furthermore is usually when you're adding on to a point that like adding extra information to
Yes,
a point
yes.
that you
So
already
although you kind of completely finish it, you're still adding on something else.
So I would go with thirdly because I'm using a new point. All right. So I can say if bullies are placed into special institutions, victims will be less fearful when attending schools. When when attending school. All right. So remember that we're using peel. So this is my point. So the next thing is to provide examples of how they would be less fearful. Why do you think a, a victim of bullying would be less fearful if their bully is removed from the school? How can we prove that?
Well, since the bully isn't in the school area, they wouldn't have any reason to be fearful.
Okay, if the bully is removed, right? Good point. What else? Because remember, we're trying to be as convincing as we can to the audience. So if somebody won't believe this, what else can we use to convince them? Um, let's think about why victims would fear the bully. What do bullies normally do to intimidate victims?
Because bullies normally criticize the victim harshly.
Criticize
Yes.
victims are usually all right. Nice. What else?
Mhm.
Who are bullies?
It's someone that picks on another person without any reason.
All right, and what? Why do they normally do it? Why do they normally target? Um,
It's either to let someone else feel the way they felt, or to earn some form of respect or feel dominant.
all right, hold on, let me write that in. All right. What else? Anything else that we could add to this one? All right, let's try to formulate this body paragraph with what we have so far. Okay. So far I have that bullies usually target their victims in an effort to exercise dominance over vulnerable victims. However, if the bully is removed from the school, victims would not have a reason to fear attending school. So we have our supporting information here to this point. What else should we use?
Miss?
What is missing from this body paragraph now? We have a supporting point, supporting information, sorry, to support the point. But what else do we need to persuade our audience?
Point, body, support, link.
We don't link it yet. Remember, we're trying to go with peel. So point, example, explanation, link. What does every body paragraph, what device or technique does every body paragraph need in a
Repeat, miss.
persuasive? What device does every persuasive essay need? The body paragraph.
Topic then.
Hmm?
Miss device.
Mm-hmm. Our technique. All right. Remember, it's going to need a persuasive technique. We have not yet included one in our third body paragraph. So we have already used a rhetorical question and emotional appeal in the first body paragraph, and we used an appeal to the authority in the second body paragraph. Let's try direct personal appeal. And if you
Right.
remember, direct personal appeal just makes it seem as if the person is talking to you directly or trying to inspire action from the audience. So if I say to you, be the change that you want to be, it's almost as if I'm being direct and straightforward to you. I'm communicating on a personal level. It's almost as if we're having a direct conversation. So
Yes,
that's
sir.
how the direct personal appeal works. So, how could I formulate that or incorporate direct personal appeal to this paragraph that we have for the third body paragraph?
Please can you repeat?
How can I incorporate the device direct personal appeal into this third body paragraph that we have established so far? And you have to remember the audience that we're trying to inspire change from as well. So try to think about which audience we're targeting. The class is about to end in 10 minutes, by the way. I'm going to forward a new link to you shortly.
Mhm.
All right. So, who do you think has the power to change this, or to remove bullies from school?
Principal,
Who-
dean.
Okay, and how would you address those authority figures to remove? How can we appeal to them? How directly by using direct personal appeal? What could we say? What sentence could we use to address them?
Uh,
Basically, I can feel like be the person you can save another person's life.
Sorry?
Be the person to save another person's life.
Let's try that. All right, so that's how we would incorporate the direct personal appeal. So you're addressing your reader to say that you have the power to change a person's life, remove bullies from ordinary schools, and place them into special institutions. This way, both the bully and the victim will encounter a change for better. All right. So let's conclude. Which transitional word are we going to use to conclude?
yes, what were the words again, miss?
Sorry?
What were the words again?
Okay. So for the conclusion, these are some of the transitional words.
You could use those.
Miss A can use in conclusion.
Yes, I could use in conclusion, but we're gonna work with this since that was the first one suggested. All right. So how can I wrap this up?
Alright. Thus, by removing the bully from the school,
Mm-hmm.
you have not only helped prevented further mental or physical harm,
You will not only prevent what?
mental and physical harm
Mm-hmm.
for the victim,
Mm-hmm.
but it will prevent further incidents to happen.
Okay. Anything else?
Mm. Let's see.
Um, Bennett, I want you to look at, not that your conclusion is not good, but I want you to just look at this part of the conclusion that you gave to me. Um, is it convincing enough? Does it tell me which, just that part only?
Repeat,
No,
miss.
miss.
Why?